The English Bulldog had never woken anyone in the night. He was, by every measure, a deep and committed sleeper. He woke every night for 7 nights in a row. On the 8th morning, they called the pediatrician, and the sleep study that followed changed the diagnosis they'd been carrying for 4 months. Otto was 3 years old, 47 pounds, and slept with the conviction of a dog that has accepted sleep as a full-time occupation. He had one speed, deeply asleep. He had never once woken his owners, Marcus and Diane Chen, in the night. Not a bark, not a whine, not a scratch at the door. Otto slept, and the household slept, and this was the established order. The established order changed when 6-month-old Petra arrived. Not in the dramatic way people warn you about, not jealousy, not aggression, not any of the behavioral adjustments the books described. Otto had absorbed Petra's presence with the philosophical equanimity of a dog who has observed many changes in the household and found them all tolerable. He had sniffed her twice on her first day home and then gone back to sleep. On the 43rd night of Petra's life, Otto woke at 3:17 a.m. Marcus heard him, heard the movement in the hallway, heard the low sound that was not quite a bark but was clearly not sleep either. He opened the bedroom door. Otto was in the hallway, looking at the nursery door, making the sound. Marcus checked on Petra. She was in her crib. She was breathing. Her color looked normal in the nightlight. He went back to bed. Otto settled. Night 2, the same, 3:22 a.m., the hallway. The sound? Marcus checked. Petra was in her crib, breathing normal color. He went back to bed. Night 3, 3:19 a.m., Diane said, "This is not a coincidence." Marcus said he might be adjusting to having a baby in the house. Diane said, He adjusted for 42 nights. This is something else." She sat with Petra in the rocking chair for the next hour and watched her breathe. Petra breathed. The breathing seemed regular. Diane counted it at 16 breaths per minute, which felt right for a baby this age. Felt like what the books said. Then Petra paused. Not a long pause. 1 second, perhaps 1.5. A brief suspension of the breath and resume cycle. Diane had been watching for it specifically and almost missed it. If she had been asleep, if the monitor had been on and she had been in her own bed, she would have missed it entirely. She called the pediatrician at 8 a.m. She described what she had seen. The pediatrician said, "Come in today. Subscribe now," because the result of the sleep study ordered the following week and what the pediatric pulmonologist said about the specific type of breathing interruption Diane had observed and what it meant in a 6-month-old is why this family refers to the 7 nights as the 7 nights Otto knew. Petra had obstructive sleep apnea, uncommon in infants, attributed in her case to a structural characteristic of her airway and exacerbated by her sleep position. The apneic events were brief, occurring in clusters during the early morning hours. The 3 to 4 a.m. window when infant sleep cycles produce the highest REM concentration and the airway muscle tone is at its lowest. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, pediatric pulmonology, explained, brief apneic events in this pattern are frequently missed on standard home monitoring because the duration is below most alert thresholds. Without a sleep study, they can go undetected for months, during which the hypoxic events accumulate. The developmental consequences of prolonged untreated infant apnea are significant. She looked at Diane. "You said the dog was waking at approximately 3 a.m. for 7 consecutive nights?" "Yes," Diane said. Dr. Tanaka was quiet for a moment. Dogs detect blood oxygen desaturation through changes in breath chemistry, specifically the shift in volatile compounds associated with mild hypoxia. The events your daughter was having produced a detectable chemical change in the air of that room. An animal with sufficient olfactory sensitivity in close proximity, or in this case down the hall, could register those events as an anomaly worth alerting to. She said the events were happening every night. He was telling you every night. Has your dog ever woken you at a specific hour repeatedly? And did you understand why? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard. Petra was treated with positional therapy and close monitoring. with a respiratory support option standing by that. As of her 6-month follow-up, she has not required. Her sleep study at 8 months showed significant improvement. The apneic events have reduced to a clinically insignificant level. Otto sleeps through the night again. He has not woken since the 8th morning, the morning after they called the pediatrician and made the appointment that led to the sleep study that found what he had been trying to show them for a week. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who never asked for anything in return. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. Marcus comes to stand in the hallway sometimes at 3 a.m., not because anything is wrong. Because he thinks about the 7 nights and what the hall looked like with Otto standing in it, looking at a closed nursery door, making the sound that was not quite a bark but was unmistakably not sleep. He stands in the hall and listens. The house is quiet. The monitor is on. Petra is breathing. He goes back to bed. Next, the small white dog who would not stop sleeping on the toddler's feet, and why the endocrinologist said what she said about cold extremities in a child with an undetected metabolic condition.